I'm here with the PFL President, Ray Sefo. Ray, I'm really excited to meet with you because I'm kind of new to the world of MMA. I covered boxing for 10 years and I started covering MMA. And I remember, I'm old enough to remember like UFC 1 and all these amazing things that were happening in MMA. But for some reason, I never really got on board with it until later in my life. And man, I love the PFL. And let me tell you why. I don't want to thank you for it. It's because the PFL reminds me of the best part of when MMA was first starting, right?
Right.
You have a tournament, you have this awesome idea that crowns a champion that doesn't look anything like the world of boxing that I come from.
Right.
But it eliminates some of the more ridiculous things. Like I used to watch these fights where this guy would outweigh another guy by like 1,000 pounds. Do you know what I mean? I mean, I think you were actually involved in some of those fights where you were outweighed by 100 pounds or whatever.
Yeah, that's right. I remember. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. And secondly, yeah, I'm a huge boxing fan as well. But yeah, no, MMA is just taking the world by storm. When I first started WSF back in the day, which is now PFL, I already knew then that we were only in the early years of, although the sport's been around for the last 20 plus years, it's still in the beginnings of some great things. There's so much talent to pull from. But yeah, you're right. I mean, back in the day, I remember competing against someone like Hong Mong Choi, who was 7'2", 370 pounds. Yeah, when you're a competitor, it's a fun challenge, if you will. At the same time, you don't realize the danger in it when you see him, put other guys to sleep. But that's their competitive side where you just want to continue to test yourself.
Yeah, and I remember you also fought Bob Sapp, and I remember the marketing around Bob Sapp. And it wasn't just marketing; this dude was huge, and like, what's an amazing spectacle! I remember being drawn to that, even as a boxing fan. And of course, it should be noted that you think you won both those fights, right?
Correct. Yes.
I know you did my boy Bob Sapp pretty dirty. You knocked him out. I saw that fight for sure.
Anything with that fight was that when they called me, I had just landed in Austria. They said, "Hey, Ray, we really want you to fight Bob Sapp. I think it's going to be a good matchup. It's going to be a good fight. Blah, 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 blah." I'm like, "Sure, I'm in." They said, "Oh, it was this Saturday." And I landed in Austria on Monday.
Wow. That's amazing. So, that's ultimate short notice there.
Right. But the thing they didn't know was that I already had put myself in the training camp like I was fighting. I did 9 weeks because also the reason for that was because I think I got to like 275, 280 pounds, which was the heaviest I'd ever been in competition. Although I wasn't competing because I had a broken arm, I just realized I was freaking crazy heavy. So I put myself in the training camp for 9 weeks, got that sorted. And so I flew to Austria for meetings and whatnot. And when I got that phone call, I said, "I'm in." So they didn't know I was training until I showed up. They were like, "Oh." So it was almost kind of like, I mean, I get it because they were trying to use me to, bump up Bob. And of course, I knew I was 100% ready for that fight. And so I took it on 5 days notice.
Man, and what an amazing fight. I mean, what an amazing fight. And like, I do miss some of those things, like seeing guys that are gigantically huge versus smaller guys. I tell you what, your fight against Bob Sapp reminds me, if I'm ever predicting fights, size never matters as much as I think it does.
Obviously, when you get two skilled heavyweights and one's bigger than the other, size does.
Their skills the same level though, right?
But 99% of the time, if the little guy is a lot more skilled, I'll put my money on the little guy all the time.
Well, you know a lot more about it than I do. But PFL, man, what an amazing journey for you, right? Because you were the founder of the WSOF back in the day, which was, I guess, years before the PFL. Did you ever think you'd be, because what I see, just as an outsider, I see, like you said, MMA is growing. You guys have the ESPN deal. That's a big deal to me, right? I mean, you've got stars on your roster. This is a huge opportunity in 2021. I'm excited to see what happens. So talk to me about that.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. 221 season is going to be amazing. I mean, we've elevated the roster this year. We got the likes of Fabricio Verdum, one of the best heavyweights ever to do it. We have Rory McDonald, who is an amazing fighter himself, former world champion. Add to that, name-studded roster is Anthony Pettis, who is, obviously is going to bring a lot of noise to the 155 division. And of course, all our champions from 2019. I am so excited, and I can't wait, for the shows to kick off. This is going to be our first show back is April 23rd, live on ESPN2 and ESPN Plus.
I love the tournament. To me, that's the thing. Like, you have the regular season format, of course, and then you put these guys in the tournament, and then they get to decide who wins. In boxing, as a guy who's covered boxing for a long time, and even the UFC for a little while, you don't get the fights. People can't just win and get the fight that they deserve. You have to win and impress the president or the owner or whoever over at the promotional company, right? So to me, this is like real life Bruce Lee movie / Mortal Kombat.
Well, and that's one of the reasons why it's exciting. Is one of the reasons why I wanted to do it too, is because not only because it's part of my background as well as a fighter with K1, but also I think it's just great that going into the cage and knowing that the outcomes and the output that you put in there and the hard work you put in there will eventually pay off. And it pays off by you winning and continue to climb that ladder to get to the title. And by the end of the year, towards the end of the year, you're fighting for a world title and $1 million. It doesn't get any better than that.
It seems like, because I've seen, like I said, I remember when the UFC first came about, and it was, and I remember the old Pride days and those old MMA companies. Then it seems like in the United States, at least, that people only became interested in the UFC, right, over the last maybe like decade or so. But today, I've seen a lot of other organizations come around. The PFL is one of them. Bellator's been trying to do it for a while. One Championship has their thing that's starting in America. I feel like there's an idea out there that there's more people out there to get, more consumers. And so what I love about the PFL is how you stand out. You're different. You're not just reproducing what the UFC has already done or even boxing does. You're your own thing. And can you talk about how did that come about?
The idea comes from my own background with K1. Through K1, we would compete throughout the year and of course you got to continue to win to make the top 16. And then I think in October, the top 16 will fight early October. The top 16 will fight off, and the winning 8 will then go to the Grand Prix, where you had to fight 3 times in one night. And so we kind of took that idea and applied it to American way of sports. And so instead of doing, the championship all in one night with 3 fights, we decided to do a playoff. So as you know, in the American way of sports is, you go into a regular season, you qualify for the playoffs, and then whoever the winners from the semifinals will get to the championship. So I kind of took that idea from my own experience and apply American way of sports into it and turn it into a league.
You were the founder of the World Series of Fighting, right?
Correct, yes.
So what I love about is you took, as a fighter, that you have to adjust to the fight as it happens, right? I mean, I'm never a fighter, but I've sparred people, and I know that I have to adjust what's in front of me. You did that with your company, and I love that because it's something that applies in all of life, right? Rebranding, the retooling. You guys have Peter Murray and Don Davis over there, you had, and not to mention all this list of amazing investors. That tells me that you're not just in it for the quick score, or you're not just in it for the immediacy, but you're in it for the long haul. You're in it to really grow something over time. I love seeing when people do that.
Thank you for saying that. But we have an amazing team, and Don Davis and Pete Murray. Not only their heart and soul is into PFL, but I just love the fact that their passion is the same as mine. You know what I mean? And so, and the whole team, in all aspects of our team, just amazing people. And when you have the whole team complete, so passionate about what they do, whether it's PR, digital, social media, and so on. The business side. Yeah, it's just truly amazing to work with just an amazing amount of people. But the passion is exactly the same, man. So, we're just excited for 2021. Obviously, it was unfortunate that the pandemic happened, but you just got to look up and continue to climb the ladder.
But even that, like, that's another example of how your company didn't just get knocked down and stay down or whatever. First of all, you let people fight on other cards. I thought that was a really awesome thing. Of course, there were like some people that wanted to fight. Kayla was visibly upset about not being able to fight, but that's a normal thing that happens.
Truly understandable.
You come out, and she actually ended up fighting on an Invicta card. That was awesome. And not only that, so not only did everybody experience the pandemic, but not everybody came out of the pandemic with these huge signings, right? It's not like you guys must have not just been sitting around twiddling your thumbs during the pandemic. So talk a little bit about that, because that's amazing to me too.
Right. No, most definitely we weren't sitting around. Although we weren't having live shows, the team was hard at work. It was just amazing to me, like, to see that side of the business. I mean, what we're doing now is what we did every day in the PFL during the pandemic. So there was still, the people were still hard at work. The PFL team was still hard at work. Don Davis was still hard at work. Mario was still hard at work. Jen, like, the whole team was just constantly. And again, like I said, we would have these kind of conference calls at least 4 or 5 times, a week. Yeah. Because there was so much things that we wanted to come back with. And obviously with the signing of Verdum, Anthony Pettis, Roy McDonald, just puts us in another level of the game, continuing to climb. And I'm so excited for season 3, obviously. But 2021 is I think people are gonna just absolutely love the PFL this year. And again, the feedback already in terms of matchups. Obviously, our goal is to try and put the best fights out there that we can. And so some of the matchups have been announced already. And I walked into the gym and everybody was just like, wow, the roster is amazing. The matchups are great. It's going to be great fights. So it's exciting. I mean, I love it when I hear that kind of thing. It just tells me and it reaffirms that what we're doing is, and with the direction we're heading, is the right direction.
Yeah, I really love, speaking of your first round matchups, you have Anthony Pettis versus Clay Collard. And I love that because that's a fight I want to see as a fan, because what Clay Collard did as a boxer this year was amazing. He built a good name for himself on that sphere. His past UFC, and then of course everybody knows Anthony Showtime Pettis. But normally I would have to wait for that fight to come around, right? But you guys put that right at the beginning. I love that.
Well, and that's just it. That's the thing with us, is that the season starts off with, the best athletes that we have, who are some of the best athletes in the world. And fans get to enjoy that from out the gate. They get to see their second matchup of the regular season. They get to see them match up against, in the playoffs, to determine who is going to become the 2 finalists for the championship. So, no, it's just exciting. It's exciting for myself. It's exciting for the team. And I know that I've gotten a lot of social media messages, emails, and whatnot from the fans, and they're pretty excited about the start of PFL, which again is this April 23rd, live on ESPN2 and ESPN Plus.
Excited about April 23rd. I'm also excited about Clarissa Shields. Talk about big signings. To me, I didn't like the other signings were big, but I never saw Clarissa coming. Like, it came out of completely blindsided me. And I've followed Clarissa's career since she was the first time she won a gold medal at the Olympics in boxing. You're a guy who's done different sports as well. It's not like you were just a kickboxer or just a boxer or just an MMA fighter. Can you just give me a little bit of insight on how that transition is going to be for her? Because to me, that's so about it for her to try to. She's at the top of her game as the best, arguably, female fighter in the world, and one of the best fighters, regardless of gender, in the world. And now she is going to try to do something else that's super hard.
And that just goes to show the kind of athlete that she is. She's won 2 gold medalists. She's a 2-time Olympic champion. She's won 2 boxing world titles. And now she's after a MMA world title. And so the process with her, obviously, because she's still got a couple of boxing fights coming up, we've decided that this year we're gonna set her up within the rather than be part of the actual season.
Yeah.
She'll be a showcase fight, if you will, and build her that way for 2022.
Yeah, because she's never done it. I visited her at Jackson Week, and this is something she has to learn every day.
Right.
I love when I see people do that because it's not. She told me that she loves being frustrated, and that isn't a common thing in the world, right? Most people don't like to be frustrated, but she does.
Right. Again, that's what makes her dangerous. Is the fact that she thrives in those times.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's what makes her dangerous. Is that when you're thinking that she might be worried about this or that, whatever, she's actually like just thinking the most positive way of thinking, and that is to make sure that she's 100% fit, that she's healthy, and that she's ready to kick your butt when the time comes.
When she was willing, I could see her that she was willing to learn and willing to not know how to do stuff in front of people. Do you know what I mean? Like that sounds to me, that's a life lesson. Like it really seriously inspired me when I came back home. I was like, well, I've been in boxing for a while. I was like, well, I should try Muay Thai. Like, why am I, if Clarissa, who is a celebrity boxer at the top of her game, can try something new, why can't a 42-year-old, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
It's really amazing.
Oh, it is inspiring, 100%. It's the same when I got into MMA and boxing is like the challenge of being an athlete. Those challenges really makes you thrive and makes you want to continue to challenge the boundaries where you can go. So, and Clarissa is one of those athletes where, like I said, she's a two-time Olympic world champion. She's a two-time boxing world champion, and now she's got to, get her feet warming within the MMA world, and she's already talking about, coming for that title. So I think it's amazing. It's inspiring, but at the same time, it's great to see these athletes continue to grow and climb the ladder.
PFL season starts April 23rd. I'm super excited about that. Of course, I knew going into this interview that you were Sugar Ray Sefo, right? And that makes sense to me, Sugar Ray. But then I also found out you were also known as Sugarfoot.
Correct.
How does someone get a Sugarfoot nickname? I like that.
So back in the day, back in New Zealand, my coach, Lolo Hemuli, who every now and then, at least maybe once or twice a week, he would finish up the session by us throwing us one up to 5 kicks on both sides, or a 1-2 combination with a kick. And everybody in the gym, I found out, or should I say, he found out I was, one of the quickest guys for a big guy. And so he's the one that actually gave me my original fighting name as Ray Sugarfoot Sefo. And then I think it was after I won my world title, I come to find out that there was another Sugarfoot.
There was already a Sugarfoot?
Right. And that was Sugarfoot Pete Cunningham. And Pete was a lightweight / middleweight, I think it was. And, so I watched some of his fights and I was like, wow, this, Pete is amazing. And then I get to meet him. I get to meet Pete 20 years later in California. He already knew who I was, and I knew who he was, and I was saying to him, I said, I hope I lived up to the name, because I seen your footage and you're truly amazing. And he's like, oh man, that was such an honor. That was awesome. But then obviously it changed to just Sugar. The foot kind of got dropped, because when I got signed to K1, I was one of the smallest guys in the heavyweight division. Everybody was like 6'2" to 7'2". You know what I mean? And so I kind of had to use my feet to get in, to use my hands. So the foot dropped and it was just Sugar Ray.
Yeah, and of course you got Sugar Ray Robinson and Sugar Ray Leonard.
Right. Oh, and that's the other part of the reason why Sugar came about, is because number one, my name being Ray, and number two, Sugar Ray Leonard is one of my favorite boxers of all time.
Okay.
Obviously, for me, it's such an honor to even be named that, because of Sugar Ray Leonard and Sugar Ray Robinson and all these other great boxers and great fighters that came before me.
Well, you certainly earned those distinctions, right? You did a lot in your career. And now also love what you're doing today because I think it's important. What I love about the PFL, and even when I see other promotional entities spring up and do well, is that it gives people the opportunity to do something that they love that they maybe not even be able to do. Just like MMA in general, right? It gives people that opportunity. And so I'm grateful that you guys do that.
Well, thank you, thank you. Yeah, I mean, if you look at not only the growth of MMA today, but the amount of people that actually go, women, kids,
Yeah.
you know, men, like it's so many walks of life, you know, young, old, whatever, they're all into the MMA world. And like, for example, at Sugarfoot, we have boxing classes, kickboxing classes, wrestling classes, MMA classes. You know what I mean? So that's suitable for everybody. Jiu-jitsu classes, and you know, my 5-year-old and my 11-year-old, they do all that kickboxing, jiu-jitsu, and they love it.
I'm really grateful to have chatted with you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.